Now, if you have a glass of drink in your hand, then stop for a moment. You may think this is just a common practice, but its history is far beyond your imagination. People have been making wine for thousands of years. We all know this, more or less. But what if we said this story began before humans were even born?
No, this is not a fairy tale. This is a chapter in the long history of evolution, where the main character was a small primate. Let's go back about 10 million years ago. At that time, there were no humans on Earth. There were vast forests and countless wild animals. In that forest, a fruit fell from the tree to the ground. Days passed. The fruit slowly began to change.
Nature never stops. Invisible tiny microbes began to work. The sugar in the fruit began to break down. A wonderful chemical change began.
This change is called fermentation. This process produces a small amount of ethanol. What we call alcohol today first appeared not in a man-made factory, but in nature's own laboratory. After a while, a hungry primate picked up the fruit that was lying on the ground. Then it took a bite. The taste was different. The smell was different too. But surprisingly, he didn't stop eating the fruit. Rather, he started looking for that kind of fruit again. Maybe he didn't know why. Yet his body seemed to be guiding him. Today's scientists believe that this may be the beginning of the earliest human relationship with alcohol. A question arises here. Why did that fruit look attractive? Why was it preferred over other fruits? The answer lies in the evolution of our brains. Ripe fruit means more sugar, and more sugar means more energy. Animals that could easily find a source of energy had a greater chance of survival. Nature selected for that trait. Fermented fruit emits a smell from a distance. By following that smell, food could be easily found. That is, the smell of alcohol was not just the smell of a drink. It was a signal of food.
Over time, this habit became more deeply ingrained. Generations changed, but the trend remained.
For millions of years, countless primates have eaten fermented fruits. Nature has taught them. Finally, much later, our ancestors appeared on Earth. When they came to Earth, alcohol was not something new. Rather, nature had already introduced them. But back then, no one knew how to make drinks. Everything was dependent on nature. When the fruit fermented on its own, only alcohol was available. But man doesn't just stop at using. He observes everything. Then he learns. Once upon a time, someone must have noticed that some fruits or grains change when they are wet for a long time. The smell changes, the taste changes, and the body also gets a strange feeling. Maybe that was the first experiment in history where there were no scientists. There was just curiosity. That curiosity one day taught man that this change in nature can be brought about at will. But the question is, where did it first happen? Who first intentionally created alcohol? To find the answer to this question, we have to go back almost 13,000 years, inside a mysterious cave. About 13,000 years ago, in a mountainous region of present-day Israel, there was a quiet cave. Name? Rakefet Cave. At first glance, it looks like any other ordinary cave. Not a palace, not a huge city either. But beneath the surface of this cave, there was a story that changed our understanding of human history. Archaeologists began excavations there. Their goal was to learn about the lives of ancient people. Slowly, they caught sight of several deep holes carved into the stone floor. At first, it seemed maybe these were just ordinary containers for threshing grain. But the mystery still remained. The researchers collected tiny samples from the hole in the rock. Then the experiment began. Modern technology can read invisible signs. Thousands of years old chemical residues also speak. The researchers were surprised by the results of the test. They found evidence of fermented grains. Wheat, barley, and signs of change that can only be seen during beer brewing. That is, these cave people didn't just collect grain. They also made drinks from it. This is one of the strongest archaeological evidences of beer brewing in the world so far. And this is where the story gets even more amazing, because these people were not farmers. They did not cultivate crops in the fields. Their lives were dependent on hunting and wild crops.
Every day, they had to go to the forests and mountains. They had to gather food. Life was uncertain.
Yet, even in this difficult life, they found time to brew beer. Think about it. When daily food is not guaranteed, then why would anyone put so much effort into making drinks? This is the question that has puzzled researchers for many years. The answer is not easy. Many believe that it was not just for fun. It was associated with social and religious rituals. An important event, or the last farewell of a loved one. Perhaps beer was served at that time. Human graves have also been found in the Rakefet Cave. Therefore, many researchers believe that it was a place of special rituals. Maybe people would gather here. They would share food and drink together. A drink not only got people drunk, it also brought people to a place. Sitting together, eating together, telling stories together. This is how the foundation of society is built. The way we all sit together at festivals or events today may have very old roots. Rakefet's discovery raises another big question. Did agriculture come first, or beer? For a long time, it was written in books. People first learned agriculture. Then they made alcohol. But this cave tells a different story. There is evidence of beer here before agriculture. If that's true, then maybe alcohol wasn't a product of civilization. Rather, it probably played an important role in the birth of civilization. And that mystery will take us to another amazing place. The story of Rakefet Cave does not end here. Rather, it opens the door to an even greater mystery. That mystery is called Göbekli Tepe. This place was hidden for thousands of years on a mountaintop in the southeastern part of present-day Turkey. At first glance, it may seem like just a pile of stones, but each stone is a chapter in history. Here stand huge T-shaped stone pillars. Some of the pillars weigh more than 10 tons. Just think, no wheels, no iron tools. Yet such a large stone was moved. Who did this? How did they do it? And the biggest question? Why did they do it? For many years, no definitive answer to this question has been found. Because people at that time did not live in permanent villages. They were hunters and gatherers. Their lives were dependent on nature. Here today, somewhere else tomorrow. So why would anyone build such a huge structure with such a temporary life? Archaeologists examined the site more deeply. Not just stones, they looked for objects used by humans. During the excavation, some large stone vessels or kiln-like structures were recovered. These pots were unusually large for ordinary cooking. The researchers collected samples from the inside of the container. Then the analysis began. The test found chemical traces of the grain, and that grain had evidence of fermentation. That is, here too, people made fermented drinks from grains. But this time, the amount was different. It wasn't for a few, for many people. It is believed that large gatherings were held at Göbekli Tepe. People came here from far and wide. They gathered together. They celebrated together. There might have been food sharing, songs, rituals, and ceremonies. And in the midst of all that, there was a special place for fermented beverages. How did a simple drink bring people together from hundreds of kilometers away? This question gives rise to one of the most controversial ideas in human history. If people are going to have such a large gathering, they will need a lot of food. And if a lot of grain is needed, then grain must be cultivated. So, does producing crops for festivals teach people farming? The question is still up for debate. According to some researchers, bread was not humans' first goal. They were interested in fermented beverages. If this idea is true, then the story of history will have to be completely rewritten. Maybe civilization didn't start just to satisfy hunger. It started with the need to bring people together. Next, our journey will take us to a small village in ancient China. There, we will find the world's oldest confirmed alcohol recipe. Now let's leave the Middle East and head towards East Asia. Destination: ancient China. About 9,000 years ago, a small Neolithic village was slowly developing. The name of this village? Jiahu. Today, it is a priceless treasure of archaeology. During excavations here, researchers found numerous ancient pots made of clay. For years, they lay buried underground. Yet, the history remained within them. In modern laboratories, the invisible chemical traces inside that container are analyzed. The results were incredible. There was clear evidence of a fermented drink. But it wasn't just one type of drink. It was a unique blend of many ingredients. Rice, honey, wild fruit. Altogether, a special drink was created. This was no accident. Every element was consciously selected. There was a sense of planning here. That is, people back then didn't just know fermentation. They also learned to control its taste. This discovery is considered the world's oldest confirmed alcohol recipe. Now, one thing to note. The Middle East and China are two regions far apart. Yet, in both places, people independently discovered fermentation. This means that the concept of making alcohol did not spread across the world from a single civilization. Rather, people from different regions of the world arrived at similar discoveries based on their own experiences. It shows that human curiosity knows no boundaries of language or culture. Where there was grain, where there was fruit, right there lay the potential for fermentation. Gradually, people learned which vessels were best and which times were most suitable. They realized that when the temperature changes, the taste changes too. Experience became the teacher. One generation began teaching this knowledge to the next generation by word of mouth. In this way, a simple observation gradually turned into a tradition. In various societies around the world, alcohol was not merely a drink, it was a part of the culture. Be it festivals, religious rituals, or the hosting of guests, its presence continues to grow in all these instances. Over time, the types of drinks have changed, the ingredients have changed, but the core concept has remained the same. Humans have always refined a process of nature to better suit their own needs. Then, another civilization took alcohol to a whole new level. There, a drink became more than just a source of pleasure. It also became part of statecraft. The workers of that civilization received their wages not in gold or silver, but in beer. Our next destination, ancient Egypt, where beer was an integral part of food, medicine, religion, and the economy. We have now arrived at one of the most remarkable civilizations of the ancient world. On the banks of the Nile, thousands of years ago, ancient Egypt came into being. Here, beer was not just a drink, it was part of everyday life. Morning tasks, midday break, the end of the day. It was present at all times. Ancient records reveal that many workers received beer as part of their wages. For the workers who participated in building the pyramids, it was an important source of food and energy. In those days, water from all sources was not safe to drink. There was also a risk of spreading diseases. However, during the beer-making process, due to boiling and fermentation, it would become relatively safe. Along with this, certain nutrients derived from the crops also reached the human body. So, for many, beer was simultaneously a drink, food, and a source of energy. It held special significance in the religious life of Egypt as well. It was also used as an offering to the gods. The presence of beer can be seen at various festivals, temple rituals, and even funeral ceremonies. Ancient physicians too would sometimes mix herbal ingredients with beer. People of that time believed that a drink prepared in this way could help with certain illnesses. Over time, the use of alcohol spread beyond the borders of Egypt to various regions of the world. New crops, new fruits, new flavors. Human creativity has not ceased. Every civilization began to create its own beverages suited to its environment. But amidst it all, one thing remained unchanged. People love to sit together. Over a drink, stories are born. Friendships are forged. Relationships deepen. Perhaps that is why the history of alcohol is not merely the history of a drink. It is the history of humanity. This journey began with an overripe fruit that lay upon a ground of an ancient forest. Since then, millions of years have passed. Species have changed. Civilizations have changed. Humans have learned to kindle fire, to grow crops, to build cities. But a common process of nature, fermentation, has remained the same. Today's modern beverage and that ancient fruit are not exactly the same. Yet, between the two, an invisible link still exists. Every time we look at human history, a new discovery changes old ideas. Perhaps future research will provide us with more new information. It will raise further new questions. History never stands still. One thing, however, is clear. The story of alcohol is not merely a story of taste or intoxication. It is a story of adaptation, curiosity, and civilization. Perhaps the next time you hear about an ancient civilization, you will remember this long journey began with a single overripe fruit.